Today is July 23rd, and Venus is in retrograde in Leo. I want to share with you a very profound experience that led to a breakthrough. We are learning how to love ourselves much more than we ever have before, which means we are being given tests by life. A lot of us, in our unawareness, in our blind spots, the areas where we can't yet see the connection to some of the maladaptive ways we have coped in life, we can't see the damage that we do on ourselves and others. And what happens is when you can't see the damage that you create, you unintentionally create it. And because you lacked awareness to the role that you played in an outcome, you have a tendency to think it has nothing to do with you. And this is why a lot of things that are happening in our life right now seems like it's happening to us, when in reality there is a vibrational vortex around us that's allowing that to be in our life, in our reality. Everything is a two-way street. And if something is happening externally, it's usually connected to something happening internally. Just because you can't see how it's connected doesn't mean it isn't. Thanks to synchronicities in our spirit guides and our dreams, lucid dreaming, some of the things that pop in our mind during meditation, while we're sun gazing, a lot of the things that's coming up for us is actually connecting the dots for us. This is what I call a Akashic download. Some call it a light code. So this is new information coming into you that you didn't previously know before. And this is how we make life make sense, by observing and learning. But when we're unaware of our subconscious patterns and their connection to what's happening in our life, you can't change what you can't see. So these are the blind spots, and this is also the parts of our psyche that show up as the shadow self. It is so amazing to me that we are living in a world where everything moves so fast, and it's always something going on. There's always a distraction. Back in the 90s, like, the most you had as a distraction was a beeper. And even then, you had to actually actively, consciously call the person back that was paging you. But now it's access to us at all times. The whole world has access to us. So this keeps our system revved up. And it's important to drop in and have moments of silence, just to be with yourself and no sound, just to give your nervous system a break. It's difficult to get the downloads that you need to make adjustments in your book of life, the song your soul came to sing. It's difficult to get that and to create from a space of awareness. You have to see the connections. You have to see the blockages and be open to being corrected. If we're often defensive and we have a difficult time receiving criticism, this is some of the effects of trauma. What happens is we're being criticized, yes, but in a way to help you be better, the same way a sensei would speak to the little grasshopper, a chef speak to the sous chef. There are levels to everything. And so this is a two-party thing. You have to spend some time being in receiving mode, surrender mode. And I'm not trying to push my own idea of what I think I know. I'm actually allowing myself to be corrected, because maybe I'm not seeing this situation the way it will benefit me to see it. And this is just humbling yourself and surrendering. And this is the inner child coming through, because you're in a healthy way. You're sinking into the inner child. I don't know, that's going to ask why about everything and be curious about everything, because a child in us is trying to have experiences and learn. A child in us is curious. So by being curious and just being open to being corrected, you're allowing your inner child to actually be a part of your day-to-day life, which means you're not as divided. The inner child is not being exiled into the dark basement of subconscious patterns that I am too afraid to see. Because maybe what could be the why? Why am I so afraid to see it? Well, maybe I don't think I can handle it anymore. And if that's the case, spending more time with yourself, less time trying to do whatever it is that has been required of you up to this point. If it's no longer resonating, this is the time to just pause and consider a new way of experiencing life, a new way of responding. And as this is happening, some of the things that are happening for me, helping me to actually embody these lessons that we've been going through. Since we went into the 2019 Galactic New Year, that's a new age that began. So we're experiencing a lot of new energy, and we got Aquarian. The Aquarian energy is here, right? So with all of these quickenings happening, a lot of things that we're going to see differently. But if you're overly attached to something being what you think it should be, that's narcissism. That means that I know what's right on every issue. I think I know what's right on, which means I'm not open to being recalibrated. I'm not open to transforming. I'm not open to being told that the way that I've been doing something is not the best way, because I don't want to feel like a failure. I don't want anything to mess up what I'm trying to do. Something always mess up what I want to do. Instead of feeling that way, you can open up and allow your heart to process the information instead of your mind. Allow the feminine part of your mind to process the information intuitively, instead of just going through your logic and reason. Most of the spiritual awakening is not logical. Most of what we experience during the spiritual awakening is our intuition. It's the feelings, it's the nudges that lead us and guide us. So in order for us to have those feelings and those nudges, we have to be able to yield to our own ideologies, beliefs, to something that might be replacing it for the better. And so this is a lesson I've been learning through my daughter. Sometimes the way I respond is how I think she needs me to respond, based on my experiences and what I think is right. But there are times where she needs me to respond in a different way than what I believe is right. An example would be back in the day when I thought it was right to put my hands on my daughter and whoop her. Some of them moments she needed a hug and to be encouraged instead of whooped. And it's the same for us. All wisdom that will lead to a more whole life experience, a healed life experience, has to include the inner child. And with the Orishas of Africa, so many lessons about the child. You have Papa Legba, he's in a child version, and he's also in his God version. That's what's happening to us. We're meant to isolate the part of us that is the divinity, and that is the inner child. What part of us is the exile part we don't want to own? We're learning how to isolate the fragments of who we think we are. And as you're learning how to isolate those things, if you are truly open to awakening and transformation and change, enlightenment, you will allow yourself to be corrected more often. And I don't mean on things that you really know you know. I mean, if you know that washing your car on the same day it's going to rain don't make sense, it just don't make sense. I'm talking about the things in life that are open to being perceived in any way. Just depends on the person that's looking at it. So if the way that you've been perceiving life is not helping you, then, be open to perceiving it different. This is how we grow. This is spiritual growth. This is emotional maturity happening. So the inner child within us has the capacity to help us be more curious and less judgmental. And so through my child, one day I was telling her, well, your friend, she can sleep in her own bed, because sometimes my daughter want to sleep with me. And she was just like, Mom, I don't really feel good with you comparing me to somebody else. I'm a different person, and this is just what I need to go to sleep. And I looked at her and I said, this is a moment to allow myself to change. This is a moment to allow myself to be recalibrated. This is a moment for me to surrender to the idea of the way that I have been parenting her and responding to certain things is no longer the highest benefit to us. And I let it go. It was a process. And that was a huge part of me that gave me the narrative of you allowing your child to tell you what to do, because that was such a thing for a lot of us. You a child, you can't tell me what to do. You don't tell me. You a kid. And some of the things we were saying and feeling and observing as children was actually accurate. And you get into the 3D Matrix program and you experience just enough conditioning through society and every other avenue that programs our beliefs, and you lose that part of you. And so, our inner child during this time is really wanting us to integrate and allow ourselves to be curious so that we can grow. Because the more you grow, the more your inner child is going to feel safe, the more that you will attract safe relationships, safe situations. And this is how we create a utopia on the planet, just each one of us learning how to clear up our mindsets of things that may be creating holographic love. These old beliefs and stuff that make us rigid. And I know what I'm talking about because I'm grown and all of that. That's ego. That's not heart. If we can learn from animals and studying insects, we can definitely learn from our children too. And ironically, as I'm having this conversation with you, I've been on this journey since 2009. 2012 was the time where my parenting became more conscious than ever before, and I vowed to never spank my child. I vowed to never talk down on my child. I vowed, I grew up where little girls got called bitches and fast. You fast ass. Acting like a hoe around here. Look what you got on. Like, that was the norm for a lot of us. And so because we were raised by parents who were children of children that were colonized and went through really, really traumatic situations, the egg, within a woman holds the experiences. And so we're post-colonization, slavery upgraded to being covert people, and we're doing the best that we can. And I think that one area that the spiritual community would benefit from shifting focus to is how to parent consciously and how to reparent, because it's the same thing. However you are parenting your children, 9 times out of 10, the way that you parent and treat your inner child self is 10 times worse. Because what our internal world and the mechanics that we created to relate to our emotions and how to deal with that it projects out into the external world, but it's not going to project out as bad as it is inside of you. So if you're critical of people, you can turn that down another 10 notches when it's internal. Because just being internal, repressed, suppressed in automatically creates more intensity of that experience, which is why a difficulty communicating your emotions and having alexithymia and inability to see and feel your emotions and experience them, unable to see the way you affect others and their emotions, unable to see why people are responding the way that they are. These are some of the results of the neurodivergent minds that we have adapted to have over time with all of these different traumas. And so a lot of us might be high functioning autistic and don't know it. And when you don't know it and you're not willing to look into it, it's going to do more damage on your life. And so that ADHD, complex PTSD, bipolar, borderline personality, schizophrenia, I mean, the list goes on and on. A lot of us are dealing with this in many different levels. It's levels to everything, some more than others maybe, but we're dealing with this. And if we are not talking about it, if we are not learning to be compassionate when we're observing these things showing up in our life, if we don't have a tribe that we can talk to or participate in things and receive encouragement, if we don't have people to talk to who maybe think with similar mindsets, like we need those things. We're mammals, we're tribal people, we need connection. And a lot of us are feeling more disconnected than ever because the inner child in us doesn't feel safe with the way we have been treating ourselves. And so Venus Retrograde and Leo is helping us with that. When you think of the divine spark that created us all, there is great power flowing within us at all times. Even when we feel powerless to change, it's still a lot of energy flowing through your 72,000 meridian frequency, anatomical anatomy of the body. That's a lot of circuitry. Think about all of the nerves. And we're creating, more neurological synapses when we allow ourselves to have new experience. So you start growing new branches on the tree inside of your neurological system in your brain and your body. And it's extend down your spinal cord and all through your arms and your legs. So we always have power moving through us. Even for those of us that deal with chronic fatigue, there's always energy moving through you. And oftentimes it's probably mental energy. Thinking a lot, strategizing, thinking how you go respond to this, how you go deal with that, what you want to do next. It's a lot, So Aquarius is mental energy. And so right now we're going back to the battlefield. The battle is in the mind. It's in the mindsets. It's in the beliefs. It's in the ways that we feel we, have to show up, operating through our false self to get things done. And there was a time where that worked well for us. We're on a new earth now. And if you have chosen to be here, you're listening to me. So obviously you have. You're no longer operating in that frequency as a place that's going to take you to where you're going. You got to get on another train. So you just go ahead and get off the train of that thinking and the trajectory of your life in the future that thinking was going to create. You can interrupt that by changing the thoughts and the patterns, the mindsets, reprogramming your subconscious beliefs. There are many ways to do this, and in every course that I have on the website, I talk about many ways that you can do this as well. But the work that I've done, that I've created and shared with you all in the courses and the challenges, that's how I was able to arrive to these Akashic downloads, these activations, to help me perceive life different, to perceive suffering different. I mean, just the power of perception alone is a lot of power. And so if we are having lack of awareness show up throughout our day as a coping mechanism to feeling all of this Cancerian energy, Leo is heart energy, Venus is self-worth, the way you love yourself, take care of yourself, You know, we just came out of a moon moving through Virgo for 2.5 days. So a lot of focus was on the body and maybe what the body needs, your teeth. Maybe you need to get a checkup, get your eyes examined. Like all that, we're moving through a lot of energy, and we're moving through it a lot faster than we used to with the quickening of time in the world. And so you learn how to manage better, you know. And so what happens is we become unintentional emotional assassins, you know. Very unintentionally, I am hurting myself and hurting people with the way I respond. And the part of being unintentional does not change the effect that will come from the way we respond or react. And if you are choosing to be a reactor in unconsciousness because you just aren't aware, and maybe it take a while for you to become aware. Maybe later you're like, dang, why did I say that like that? I didn't have to say that like that. You know, and maybe you apologize. Like I apologize for the way that I responded. But the more you practice this, you will preconceive this and you just won't do it. You will preconceive the way somebody triggers you, and you will connect the dots and know how you responded in the past before it even happens. And you are preparing yourself proactively to be a creator, an intentional creator, instead of an unintentional emotional assassin, cutting down people's spirit left and right because you're triggered and you're in survival mode. You're in fight or flight or freeze or fawn, even worse, because then you internalize the energy of the trigger. And of course, that internalized energy is going to need to be worked through. Somatic healing, somatic sensory is the energy that we experience in certain parts of our body that is affected by that. You know, so I have tightness in my shoulders that comes up, and I know that I'm carrying some stuff on my shoulders, you know, so it's a time for me to pause, slow down, and work through it. With that being said, for those of us that have children and for those of us who are reparenting our inner child, be open to responding different. Because if you think the way you respond is the best way and there is absolutely no other way, you shut down any communication between you and spirit to adjust your life, to change the future trajectory so that you can arrive to your goals and your dreams, and actually well outside of what we can conceive is what we're creating. It's going to be bigger than what we are visualizing and hoping to happen and seeing ourselves experience. You know, so in order for you to be on that track, in order for your locomotive to be carrying you in that direction, you have to be open to stopping and getting off and making a transfer. And maybe some of us are being guided to transfer to another train. And if the train that you've been on, you know, is no longer going where you desire to go, well, spirit knows. You know, the creator knows where this is heading. And the way that information is given to us is we have to be connected. We have to be in receptive mode. We have to have our heart open. We have to be willing to be seen as wrong. We have to be willing to see our own mistakes and not judge ourselves for it. Just observe it. Be curious about it. And don't judge it. You just OBB into it. This is an out of body, out of brain experience, the OBB. And when I created that strategy, I didn't really know how transformation was going to be because it was so simple. And so sometimes the ego searches for complex solutions because it's more comfortable with you not changing tracks. Because the ego want to do what it knows. It want to be around what it's familiar to, even though this new part of you that you're cultivating wants something different. And so that's what we're facing right now. You know, the nodes have shifted into Aries and Libra, and so that is like another opportunity to rethink our life, to rethink the direction we're going in, and to release some of the attachments to things that are unhealthy and maladaptive. First, before you can get on the right train, you got to see that the one that you own not taking you where you want to go. And next, you got to actually stand up to get off. And you got to walk to where you need to be and stand and wait on that next train. And because patience is difficult for a lot of us, because we're just so ready to get it done, we don't stand there long enough, and we'll just go get back on the other train because you're tired of waiting. And a lot of us are tired of waiting for things to change. And so working with the dark goddesses for me helps me to navigate my subconscious mind and to navigate the abyss of this great collective trauma that we are having purged from us to address in the ways that were not addressed when we were children. Doing that with your inner child, you'll be surprised at how much the inner child will communicate to you just by working with dark feminine energy, the dark feminine archetypes, the dark goddesses. These are the depictions of this journey, this evolutionary cycle, rebirth we're going through, personified. There are many ways that you could look at this, philosophical ways, but ultimately healing what's in the dark requires feminine energy. So when I say dark, it doesn't mean bad. It just means that they rule. That is the connection to consciousness to navigate that realm. If you got a destination put in your GPS system and you are only willing to get there the way that you think you're going to get there, you're not going to get there. And a lot of us have in our mind, we're afraid of feminine energy. A lot of men are triggered by feminine energy, true feminine energy, not the toxic kind where they can respond in ways that are negative. And it's like because you're being toxic, they can be toxic. And so they kind of, get to feel a little bit better about themselves. But when you start not being toxic and triggered anymore, they get the opportunity to change. And so it's the feminine energy that helps us to do that. And for those of us who are feminine embodied, feminine dominant as well, or training ourselves to be, that is going to call for you to relax more. Not just your physical body, but your mental beliefs. And just relax and be like, you know what? I'm open to seeing this different. The way I think about this might not be the most accurate way to think about this. Now just feel that for a moment. Feel into what this transmission is giving your heart. There is a great silence and peace. That's the inner serenity coming from the soul, because you're plugged into something that's connected to your soul, the essence of creation. And just by responding to whatever's showing up in life as the way that I'm perceiving this may not be the only way to perceive this. I'm open to perceiving this another way. That one thing alone. A lot of us are trying to change the veneer in our life, the material manifestations in our life to feel better. But true self-soothing comes from within, your inner sanctuary. And this helps so much for those of us who are trauma-created, people-pleasing, and codependency, trying to be nice all the time. You expend all your energy to love you, using a false mask to communicate with others, and just being open to, you know what, my way of handling that may not be the best way. Spirit, I'm open to receive a new route. Okay, this might be showing up for me because the way I've been doing this isn't the best way. All right. Spirit, thank you so much for letting me see that this may not be the most beneficial way to respond to this. I feel uncomfortable, so I know that means it's something about this that is presenting an opportunity to growth, because growth is uncomfortable. So I'm not going to assign negative meaning to the discomfort that I'm feeling right now. I'm just going to be with it, and I'm going to stay flexible. You know, I'm open to perceiving it's different. And this is even your own feelings. I had a strong 48-hour grief cycle move over me like a wave, and I couldn't shake it, no matter what I did. Broke out doing the Roger Rabbit, like old school dancing. And sometimes that'll break me out of a track that I'm on and thinking that nothing was working. I tried everything. I was like, what I need to do? And BB, it was like, you're doing too much, baby. Just sit down and observe and allow yourself to release the attachment to your brain and figuring it out and fixing it. You're trying to do all of that because you're trying to make the discomfort of it go away. And if you rush it away, you're going to have to deal with it another day. So you said that you want your life to get better and better and better. And for that to happen, we need to go ahead and start dealing with these things today. Don't put off to tomorrow what can be done today to stay forward moving. And I was like, wow, yeah, I'm just going to observe this grief. And I just was with it. And I cried and I cried. And I was just like, I've been avoiding this. I've been trying to affirmation my way out of grief. You know. And I listened to a lot of other spiritual people, and that's what I got from that. Just use your affirmations. I'm powerful. I am abundant. I am love. But inside, like, you feel pain, heartache, sadness, anger. Maybe you feel betrayed. That's okay. That's okay. Just be with that. It's okay. When you start feeling it, imagine it as your inner child feeling it. And see that little child inside of you. And this will change the way you react. You're changing the way you are perceiving a situation. You're changing your position in your observation of what's occurring. By doing that, you will not be taken over and overcome, because I feel a lot of us who had to suppress our emotions, when we re-experience them, they are more intense because of how much we suppress them. And so the key to releasing the density of the judgment that comes with witnessing your own emotions that come up, you observe it from a different perspective so that you can shift out of the inner critic and into the inner child. And so as you are feeling the grief come up, if that was a child grieving the death of their parents, how would you respond to that? And if the way you respond to your own grief is not acceptable to your heart in the scenario I just shared with you, that's a measure of the steps that can be taken with your own grief, with your own emotions that's coming up. And you will see how hard you be on yourself. You will see the distance between the life that you desire and where you are. You will see, and by seeing the distance, by having the navigation system, by observing it from a higher consciousness, a higher level, you're able to see the steps that's happening in your life are leading you in the journey of where you need to go. And as we are allowing ourselves to have this out-of-brain experience, your inner child feels seen, loved. By meeting the needs of the inner child, most of our core needs in life will automatically follow, if not all. It begins with your inner child. Everything that you desire begins with going back to the inception of conditioning. And if you tend to be a reactor instead of a creator, as an emotional, unintentional assassin, just unintentionally assassinating dreams, hopes, moments of profound healing, just crushing and killing the things that you really love on the inside. But the conditioning is pushing it away. And we'll try to reorganize our life on the outside without dealing with the story, the narrative, the verse in the song. A song is something that can repeat over and over again, right? That's why I call it a song. We're writing new verses to this song. It's not just a book of life. It has sound, vibration. That is the energy of creation. And so the song that your brain is singing might be tormenting to your inner child. And if you often are saying to yourself, you know, I'm bad, I'm unworthy, you know, I'm just broken, and I don't even deserve nobody to love me because look how I be doing my own self. Like, as you start awakening, you have these moments where it's pretty loco up there. It get loco up there. The battlefield is in the brain, in the mind. And so what happens is the inner child is listening to this horrendous, horrific ass music. So of course you're going to be more easily triggered, and you're going to have a difficult time being with strong emotions, and you're going to perceive any sadness, grief, anger, anything as a threat. Like, of course, you are in fight or flight, freeze or fawn, and the inner child is in the driver's seat, and the inner child is being tormented. So the inner child does not feel safe. This is all root chakra dysfunction. The inner child feels threatened. The inner child doesn't feel like, it can trust the people that's in the inner child's life. Like, a lot of us felt that as kids. We just ignored it and pushed past it so that we could function and get through society. Now we're having the time to spend with ourselves and heal those things. And everybody's cycle is different, but there are always going to be people on the same train with you. These are the like-minded people. And you will be surprised at the amount of transformation that can happen when you accept the fact that you have been an unintentional emotional assassin, an unintentional emotional terrorist. You're like, yep, I did that. I played that role. Like, I played the hell out of that role. I should have got an Academy Award for that shit. Did you see that? I was convinced that my way was the only way, and I stuck with it. And it kept biting me in the ass, and I stayed with it. Like, that is the foundation of a great actor or actress. To be able to stay with it and be completely fully convinced of it. And because you're feeling that conviction about what you believe, which might not even be a fact, then everything else in your life follows suit. And so, going back to the root chakra, which is where the inner child lives and all of our development begin up to creating our ego. Yes, you reorganize your foundations to be more loving. This is transmission that I've been getting. I've been channeling Venus a lot. And I'm going to continue to do these transmissions as they come in integrity. However, I'm shifting to spending a little bit more time with myself, processing these things, because a lot of energy and time goes into creating the content that I create for you guys. And it's, it can be a bit much. And, it's my responsibility to embody what I share. And I hope that you are able to take some time out as well. But I want you to know, being an unintentional emotional terrorist, no matter what name we use for it, especially narcissism, since it's such a conversation, there is a very, very insidious energy entity implants that are attaching to people who operate in being judgmental and criticizing, existing in a state of condemnation more often than higher vibrational feelings. And I see where it's heading. Everybody is pointing the finger at each other, calling each other narcissists. You know, I see where it's going. And it's leading us off our path. Because if your focus is the narcissism in others and how hurt you've been by it, and that's your only focus, you won't see the areas where you refuse to change, the areas where you refuse to see a different way. And so I believe that every human on this planet has some narcissistic traits. And I've been sitting on the fence about going deeper into this content, because the goal for me is to take you deeper than you've ever been before as to the roots of a lot of these topics, and present to you a perspective that you do not always see. And as a channeler and an oracle, a lot of the content that I create is coming from the Akash. It's coming from the Book of Life being reorganized. It's coming from, I was born in Alexandria, the Library of Alexandria. My natal chart, everything is set up for me to do exactly what I am doing. My Atmakarika, which is my soul planet, it's Saturn. And Saturn is all about suffering and learning how to create discipline to relieve that and alleviate that. And so that's why I am creating the content that I'm creating. So this is different, because as a channeler, it's not as much structure as I would like for it to be. I would like to do this with you every week, right? But it don't always come up like that. And so in integrity of that, I'm going to continue to self-care and self-care some more, so that what's coming through me is connecting you to the frequency of self-care and self-love, because we're having to have more integrity. We're having to make sure that how we're communicating with the external world is not through the false self anymore. It's through the authentic self. And that's not an overnight thing. That is a period of shedding skin like a snake, which is why the snake is used to symbolize wisdom a lot throughout many cultures and ancient spiritual practices. So we're shedding those things that are not serving us anymore. And your skin, I did a chemical peel once, and I would say that's close to skin shedding, because it did shed. And just watching the healing process of that, and watching it scab over and then dry out and the scabs peel off to reveal newer, fresh skin. But that newer skin was more sensitive. And so I had to change the way I was caring for my skin because of the conditions. And so we are in some difficult conditions. I want to validate for you, if you listen to me and you've been feeling like you're on a roller coaster, to not feel any guilt about that. It's okay. We're all riding this roller coaster together. I mean, this train is more like a roller coaster right now. And, so we have a huge opportunity to shift from being unintentional emotional assassins into being intentional lovers. And the path to being a more intentional lover must include your inner child. It must include the acceptance of your shadow self, your shadow aspects. Because if you are not accepting what's too painful to experience and see, you will remain wounded and you will bleed all over everybody in your life, thinking that they're the ones that's stabbing you. And you won't be able to tell if the people in your life is stabbing you, or maybe if you're wounded and you're bleeding everywhere all over them. So it seems like they're doing this to you, but this wound has been there. And so we're learning how to identify these things. for those of us who have children, you use everything in your power to protect your children, and that includes boundaries around yourself to protect them. Because this energy that has caused this explosion of narcissism trending all the time, we're identifying the problems in other people, and it may skew the focus on ourselves. So focus on you, less on people. Because if you are hyper fixated on what somebody else is doing, you'll get stuck and you'll become a victim to what they're doing. That's the confusing part about this awakening process and going through multiple dimensions. We're in between dimensions right now because of the astrology, and I'm sure some of y'all can feel that. The great part about that is we can be less tethered to certain attachments and beliefs, and this is an opportunity. This is a portal. I told y'all this was the 444 activation portal, and this ends on September 4th. Began on July 22nd. That's the 4-4. It started at 12:12, and the 1 and the 1 is a 2, and the 2 and the 2 is a 4. That's 24, which breaks down into 6 4s. And we're in this energy for 6 weeks. The 6 is the number of man, and 4 often represents the directions and the elements and the seasons. So this is a powerful time where we can really accomplish great things just by going within and caring for ourselves the way we would care for a little baby. Baby yourself, okay? You're worth it. Baby yourself, and you'll see. Some things that you think you got to work to fix actually just requires you to be gentle with yourself, and it fixes itself. And you be like, I forgot all about that problem, and it don't even exist no more. Yeah, problems are portals to higher aspects of yourself. So, how can I be of service to you? Would be the next question, because this energy is all about collaborative dreaming as well. When we participate in anything with each other, we're creating a third energy. And just remember, the Wetiko mind virus and the energy that the indigenous talked about and the Gnostics call the archons, they're here. They're here, and they're looking for ways to distort and manipulate the way we feel to create more suffering so that the planet does not get upgraded to new earth energy, where we're existing in 5D consciousness, which I talk about extensively in the 3D Matrix Detox course, where I break down to you the harmonic frequencies we entered into. But now that we're in this number of men for 6 weeks, working on our internal, that means on the other side of this, whatever discomfort you're experiencing, if you experience it with your inner child in mind and practice showing up gentle, forgiving yourself more, forgiving others as well, and giving your inner child an outlet, by doing those things, you're going to be able to experience a miracle or maybe a dream or something you really, really been needing a breakthrough to come. Listen, it's on its way. So you just hold a vibration of everything that I have transmitted into your heart now. Remain consistent as you possibly can. Release judgment to when you are not. Take some time out to laugh. And my guides are recommending for me to tell you to watch Pink Panther. Pink Panther literally is alchemy. That's not TV. That show is alchemical. And he is an unintentional assassin. the comedy around him being an unintentional assassin will help you to perceive your own flaws and imperfections in a way that might lead to humor and laughter that you will be able to carry with you to help you feel better about going through these intense emotions that we are purging, refining, and healing. And if that one don't resonate or you cannot find it, the next one would be Naked Gun or Airplane. Those older 1980 comedies have alchemically been helping me integrate these fragmented parts of myself that I'm re-experiencing, especially to get through the grief. Once I'm done being with myself, working through OBB, journaling, then I'm ready to shift out of it. This has been going straight to my heart, and it's been amazing. So try that. Those old school comedies. I think it was another one that was about the police officers. Was it called Police? And the guy could make all the different noises with his mouth. What was the name of that movie? Police Academy. Yep. Police Academy as well. This is your prescription for the Venus Retrograde. This intuitive guide has been inspired by Venus. And I want to offer to you to visit the new verse. Come see what's in the new verse. And actually make a decision to participate and see for yourself that everything that you need is inside of you. Having the tools to inspire, motivate externally, help you to connect the tracks. And each new track that you lay for your locomotive, you get closer and closer to the life you deserve and that you are in the process of attracting. Even if you don't think so, it's happening. May, your third eye has just been kissed. Peace, one love, Ashe, Namaste, Namaste.